Are you a fan of the Pacific Division, the most exciting division in the NHL? You sure bet, Coach. Why? Welcome to the Worst Sports Channel on YouTube, Garbage Sports with me, Coach Ryan D. Here's where we break down everything Pacific Division. There's a couple exciting teams in this division, but let's be frank, unless your hometown is within this division or your favorite player plays in this division, this is not going to be the division for the casual audience. Viewer discretion may be advised. We're going to go ahead and break down the Athletics grading advanced analytics of the Pacific Division. We're going to tell you where they rank right now in terms of playoff likelihood percentage. And then we're going to go team by team with Coach Ryan D's analytics, because you got to put a little bit of pragmatic thought behind this. This game is not played just on paper with advanced stats. And then I'm going to regrade them out with my own rankings. Let's go ahead and talk about the Pacific Division and even the exciting Seattle Kraken who have just joined it. We're going to get to everybody: Oilers, Knights, Kraken, the rest. Let's roll the intro. And if you're new to Hot Garbage Sports, consider giving us a big thumbs up and a like. We'd love to have you here on our journey to 5,000. The Athletic has now put a percentage prediction behind the teams, and they have stated that if we play an infinite amount of seasons the way the teams are lined up right now, these stats will come true, and this is the percentage that they will make the Stanley Cup playoffs. But there's only one outcome that is going to actually occur. So let's go ahead and see where they graded them out, shall we? I don't think there's any surprise here that the Knights come in with a very strong 92%, one of the strongest in the league, and that is because, frankly, the division's pretty weak. The Edmonton Oilers come in at 88%. Coach, why are they in at 88%? They only have 3 players. Correct. And we're going to talk about them. There's a reason they're 88%. Seattle Kraken come in at 77%. Not sure how that can happen. Advanced Analytics, well, they take into account the last 3 years of data, but none of these players have played with each other at all for the last 3 years. So is the system broken, or do they actually rank there? Stay tuned to find out. Calgary Flames come in at 54%. The Vancouver Canucks, 40%. The San Jose Sharks at 19%. The LA Kings at 11%. And the Ducks, 2%. We tier them together because tiering teams together just makes the most amount of sense. There's no order to it. We just go ahead and put them in the tier and say it's very likely that these teams will fall here. All right, let's start with the Ducks. They're a hockey team. They have 25 rostered players. All right, on to the next one. Just kidding. Trevor Zegras, that's the big story this year. Can Zegras actually step into a top 15 center role? Awesome prospect. I think he can do it. I think it's over 60 points easy for Zegras. Jamie Drysdale, one of the youngest, most exciting defensemen for the Ducks. Is he going to take a massive step forward? Defensemen take till they're 24 to come on, so we'll see. Other than that, you got guys like Lindholm, Fowler, Shattenkirk. These are names you know, but they're names that time has passed by. This is one of the weakest teams in the NHL. John Gibson is 3 years removed from his miracle on ice style play. He is an average goaltender now. And when we look up and down the roster, this is a team with an identity crisis. They don't know if they're rebuilding or not. Fans know they should be rebuilding, and they're probably pretty frustrated they ain't. But hey, here we are. We signed Ryan Getzlaf again to a 1-year deal. All right, let's talk about their neighbors, the Los Angeles Kings. This is another team that is likely to be in the basement. Now, the Kings have Anze Kopitar and Drew Doughty leading the way for the kids. They also have Calvin Peterson in net, and I think Peterson's a fantastic goalie. So they finally have an upgrade or an answer long-term at goalie in Calvin Peterson. That's great, but it's not going to be enough to dig them out of the hole that they're in. Doughty is the only notable defenseman on this roster. There's nobody else out of here that really is worth writing home about. This is one of the weakest defensive cores in the NHL, and that's saying something because we're about to talk about a lot of weak defensive cores, and we just talked about the Ducks, so here we are. Up front, they went ahead and they signed a few players in free agency, 2 of the notable ones being Arvidsson and Deneau. This needed to happen. Even though the Kings aren't in an identity crisis and they are rebuilding, Arvidsson and Deneau needed to come in. You can't just run the kids. Byfield will make the team this year. Byfield was sent down to the AHL last year for a little bit of seasoning. It's very strange for a second overall pick, but he didn't need to be in the train wreck that was LA at that point. Now he's got to play. Anderson DeLorean.
Back to the future. Back to the future.
Back to the future.
Back to the future.
Can he actually step up? He's going to play on the 4th line, but he's an interesting little prospect to take a look at. And Philip Deneau is young enough that even though they signed him in the middle of a rebuild, he will be the veteran at the end of his contract that will help all of these young kids as they proceed into veteran status. So Deneau is a fine add, and defensive-minded forwards usually fall off way later than offensive-minded forwards, but this is still a basement team. All right, let's go to San Jose, where Canadians go to retire. Hi, Canadians that retired in San Jose. Wish I was there. This team is a team. I mean, you go ahead, again, awful defensive core. You might be wondering, if you don't watch this team normally, Vlasic, Karlsson, Burns, how could it be? This is a team of ghosts. Karlsson and Vlasic are way past their prime. They're just monster contracts that have to stay on the team. Neither are going to rebound, in my opinion. Brent Burns consumes way too many minutes for a guy in his late 30s at this point, and it's frankly because Karlsson and Vlasic have completely fallen off. But this is what happens when you are a team that is a cup contender for 10 to 12 years like the Sharks were. They pushed all their chips in the middle. Unfortunately, they couldn't close it out. The best they could do is a trip to the Stanley Cup final. They just couldn't get there. They are the best team that never did, and the cup is hard to win. They were very competitive. This was a very tough division once upon a time ago, but we are left with ghosts. Go ahead and take a look at the forwards. This is Thomas Hertl's team. I think Thomas Hertl should be traded for multiple assets and prospects at this point. He's the only thing worth anything on this roster. He is that good that you probably shouldn't trade him, but at the end of the day, you got to do a rebuild somewhere, and you know, you're not doing yourself any favors with the back end that you have at this point. Evander Kane continues to be the joke that he is. Kane is an absolute mess and a train wreck, and now he is faking his vaccination status and vaccine cards. The guy's an absolute clown. We hope he gets better, but I think Kane's a douche. Logan Couturier is been bypassed by Thomas Hertl at this point, but he's still a serviceable second line center. He's just got a pretty big contract to go with it. So that's the Sharks. I don't expect them to do much. Adin Hill is a really nice signing for them. Let's hope that Adin Hill ends up being their goaltender of the future. All right, Canucks fans, Canuckleheads, how's your team going to look this year? This is a team that's moving in the right direction. So I love the goaltending situation. Thatcher Demko is an absolute monster net. I think he has future top 5 potential written all over him. He should take a step forward this year, but sometimes it is tough playing in a, system like you have here. Basically, there's no defenseman worth mentioning on this team, and Canucks fans aren't going to like to hear that outside of Quinn Hughes. Quinn Hughes is a dynamo, but the problem with Quinn Hughes is he's going to take some time to still learn the back end. He's fantastic offensively. He's one of the best skaters in the NHL. He will be a top 10 defenseman. He makes my list of top 30 defensemen above. Quinn Hughes is a monster, but he's got to learn to play responsible in his own end. He's just not there yet. You don't believe me? Go ahead and take a look at his advanced stats. He took 7% of his team's eligible faceoffs in the D zone. A really top defenseman takes 20%. That is bad stats. So his coach doesn't even trust him back there. Hamonic, he's a name. Ekman-Larsson, time has passed him by. I don't think he's going to rebound. I don't think he's poor. I just think he's a replaceable level talent. So I think Arizona got everything they could out of him and then way too much. I think Tucker Poolman is an AHL player. I can tell you right now, they're going to tell you Poolman can skate well. He can't. He's the worst skater in the NHL at his size. And he's the worst. He's terrible. He's going to get burnt to the outside all the time. The only two things Tucker Poolman does well in the NHL is cross-check people in front of the net because he is a big, strong, tough man that you can't cross-check anymore. And Tucker Poolman is a big shot. But in order to use that big shot, you kind of got to get up ice, and the guy can't get up ice. So look for him to get burnt hella on the outside. It's just what happens with Tucker Poolman, and that is not going to help Oliver Ekman-Larsson rebound. Jack Rathbone, nice prospect. I think he's a great prospect, but he's not ready yet, although he's making the team this year. Tyler Myers, again, replaceable level talent, overpay. He played number 6 with Winnipeg when Winnipeg had that dominant defensive core, and he's playing number 6 here as well too. So I don't know. I think he's got to move up. I think Poolman's got to move down. Myers absolutely has to move up. Poolman cannot play with Ekman-Larsson. So put Ekman-Larsson and Myers together, you'll put something together. Up front, Elias Pettersson. Pettersson needs to rebound. If Pettersson isn't scoring, he reminds me a lot of Patrick Laine. If Pettersson doesn't put the puck in the net, I don't like anything else that he really does. So Pettersson's got to rebound this year. If he doesn't, I don't know. The stats say he's great, but my smell test says last year was a really bad year. Brock Besser and Bo Horvat are fantastic players. I think Horvat is an amazing two-way center. I love everything he brings. Their top 9 is great. I love Vancouver's top 9. I love their goalie, hate their defenseman. And I'll tell you, as a Winnipeg fan last year, we didn't have a great defense, and teams without great defense really do struggle, even with solid goaltending. So this team could make the playoffs, but I don't expect them to be a dominant team. All right, the Calgary Flames, same problem in my opinion as the Vancouver Canucks. Look at their D-core. I am not a fan of Chris Tanev. He was fine when he was over at Vancouver. I mean, the Flames basically bought all the Vancouver Canucks players anyway. Noah Hannafin, we've been waiting for a breakout for like 8 years? 8? Come on, Hannafin, you going to show up anytime soon? If he was going to show up, now is the time. Outside of that, there's really nothing else to talk about. They're all replaceable level players. So I don't love this back end core. And Jacob Markstrom, I think Jacob Markstrom got bought by the Calgary Flames at his ceiling. I don't really believe in Markstrom. I believe that the advanced analytics have him below the 15th goalie in the NHL. And I think he's actually below the 20th goalie in the NHL, but maybe I'm wrong and he can bounce back. Goalies are weird. They can get hot at any time. So he's got the goods to get hot. I just think over a full season, 82 game average, he ain't that good. Then you go ahead and look at the Flames coach. I don't think Daryl Sutter was the right guy either, but Sutter's done one good thing. He brought in Gaudreau, Lindholm, and Tkachuk. This is one of the best lines in the NHL. It's not as good as their counterparts over in Boston, and it's not as good as the line out of Colorado, but it is a very, very good line. Top 5. Lindholm is a fantastic center. I love Tkachuk with Gaudreau. This is the right call. It's got to stay together. Sean Monahan, is he going to play second or third line? I'm interested to see. Blake Coleman was a really nice addition over from the Tampa Bay Lightning. I really like the top 9, and I even like the 4th line for the Calgary Flames. I think their forwards are fine. If their goalie gets hot, it could be okay, but their goalie is no Thatcher Demko, and their defense is not really any better or worse than the Vancouver Canucks. So slight upgrade at forward depth, downgrade at goalie, downgrade at D. I think they're about equal with the Canucks, to be fair. Hey, Seattle Kraken! Now I'm getting excited. I'm really excited to see what this team's going to do. I have no idea. I think the Kraken could absolutely be a 95-point team. They could be a 100-point team. They could miss the playoffs. Who knows? Ask me after 10 games. I got to see these guys work together because we haven't seen the chemistry. What do the Kraken have? No holes. That's simple. They have no holes, and they have a dynamic goaltending duo. Do I love either goaltender? Absolutely not. I think Drieger is fine. I think Grubauer is overrated. But together, I think they're one of the best. What a great job by the Kraken. I thought they should have taken Price. Still think they should have taken Price. But for $10 million, they have both Grubauer and Drieger, one of the best goaltending tandems in the NHL. So we'll see if Coach Ryan D is wrong about Grubauer. I think he is a goalie that benefited from playing in front of one of the best teams in the world. I think Grubauer is a mid-pack goalie at best, but he's good enough to get the job done. And on nights he needs relief, Drieger is probably one of the best, if not the best backup in the NHL right now. Maybe he's ready to be a starter. Kraken fans aren't going to love to hear that because I know they're really excited and pumped about their goaltenders right now, but until I see them do it with the Kraken, I'm not a full believer, but the tandem I am. So I think this is one of the best goaltending tandems in the NHL. You play who's hot, you go forward. Their defense, it's a gem. There's no weak points in this defensive group. I mean, the first line is great with Giordano and Olesiak. I mean, these are mean and nasty first pairing guys. Then you go to Vince Dunn, who is a great puck mover and a fantastic 25-year-old in his own right. Adam Larson, one of the best shutdown defensemen in the NHL. He's no Pelech, but he's good enough. So I love the pairing of Dunn moving the puck, Larson shutting him down, and Saucy and Fleury. I mean, I like them both. There's nothing negative to say about this defensive core. Defensemen plus goaltending building from the net out makes for a very good team. So I really like what I'm seeing from the Kraken. Go ahead up front. There's just depth. That's all we're looking at is depth. They have no centerman right now, but Beniers was the right pick. You want to see how good Beniers is? Take a look at my video above breaking down his scouting report. I actually give you coach's breakdown of Beniers. He's amazing, but he's not here this year. Yanni Gourde's one of the best defensive-minded centermen in the league, but he's likely a number 2 or number 3 guy. He's just going to play number 1 this year, maybe next year as well. Eberle can still get it done. I think he's better on the second line, but he has to play on the first line. Then you have Jaden Schwartz, again, I think a second line player playing on the first line. So this first line may not be one of the best in the NHL, but it's good enough to get it done. And then when you take a look at line 2, line 3, line 4, it's one of the deepest NHL rosters out there. And this is a team game. This isn't a superstar only game. So we're going to take a look at a contrasting team that only uses superstars, but I absolutely think this team can get it done. All right, the Vegas Golden Knights, the only serious cup contender in this group until the puck drops. You never know what is going to happen 25 games into the season. The Golden Knights, I actually think they got worse, Knights fans. I'm sorry, there's a lot of you on this channel, but it's the way it goes. Knights, Robin Lehner is a fine goalie. Should have kept Fleury for his last year. That's okay. It's done. Lehner's carrying the workload. There's a lot of people that say, hey, wait and see, Coach Ryan D. I've wait and saw. I've watched Robin Lehner his entire career. He's good. It's just not Fleury good. But that's okay because Laurent Brossoit is a fantastic backup. The defensive core of the Knights is awesome. It is better than the Kraken. It's one of the best in the NHL. Second, probably only behind the Colorado Avalanche. So they build from the net out as well too, which is a great way to win a Stanley Cup. Maybe they'll get there this year. Maybe not. Braden McNabb, Alex Pietrangelo, Shea Theodore, Alex Martinez. I love this top 4. It's fantastic. The bottom pairing is great with White Cloud. I mean, it's a really deep defensive core. It's a nightmare to play night in and night out. And Knights fans, I don't know why. I'm in a lot of your fan chats and that. I don't get why there are people out there that don't like Alex Pietrangelo. Take this video clip to the bank right now. Show it to all your friends who say Pietrangelo is not worth the money or he's not that good. You're wrong. That person's a moron. Pietrangelo is one of the best defensemen in the NHL. Take that to the bank. He made Team Canada out of the gate as a top 3 pick. Out of all the defensemen Team Canada could have picked, and we can make 5 teams worth of defensemen, they took Pietrangelo. That's how good he is. Period. Hard stop. Up front, what else is there to talk about that you don't already know? This is a deep team. It lacks elite centermen. Carlson's your best centerman, but Stevenson plays on the top line. Stone's an elite goal scorer, and there's depth all over. There's nothing to hate about the Knights. I do think they've taken a step back this year, but not significantly. So this team, as well coached as they are with the defensemen that they have, can still absolutely win the Stanley Cup. And remember, the Washington Capitals won a Stanley Cup with a team that I thought was less talented than teams they had in the past. Happens all the time. This is more than a 100-point team. NHL's elite. All right, the Edmonton Oilers. We have a whole video dedicated to the Oilers and where we think we're going to be. Link above. Go ahead. Check it out. The Oilers we're not going to spend a ton of time on. Why? Because it's the big 3. It's McDavid, it's Draisaitl, it's Nurse. When you take a look at advanced stats, when you take a look at the Oilers with the eye test, Draisaitl, Nurse, and McDavid drive this team. When you have 2 of the best centermen in the NHL, likely the 2 best in the NHL, maybe 1 and 3, you're going to be this good. It's going to make up for a lot of holes. Hyman was an amazing signing to play with Connor McDavid. Jesse Puljujarvi grades out as a second line player who's going to play on the first line. Nothing wrong with that. Nugent Hopkins is a beast when he plays with Draisaitl, and Yamamoto is awesome. This is it's the best top 6 in the Pacific Division. It's the best top 6 in the Western Conference. Yes, it's better than the top 6, the Colorado Avalanche. Take that to the bank. The bottom 6 is improved, but that ain't saying much because it wasn't really that good to begin with. Maybe Perlini is going to actually step up and be something, with his career. We'll see. Love Fogle. He's like Hyman light. You take a look at the defense, though. Barry is a power play specialist. Nurse, I think, is a top 3 defenseman for sure. Maybe top 5, but I really like Nurse a lot. Top 30 defenseman above. Duncan Keith, I'm worried about him, but not that worried. I just don't like the contract. Chris Russell, Bouchard's an awesome prospect. And then Mike Smith. Look, here's the deal with Mike Smith. If he plays like he did last year, you're going to be fine. But if he finally falls off the cliff due to age, then you're going to be in big trouble. And that's the end of it. Koskinen is not going to go ahead and pick up for the slack of Mike Smith. So Mike Smith's got to be hot. We'll see with goalies. If Smith stays hot, this is going to be a very good team in the Pacific Division. They're going to do some damage in the playoffs. If not, they're in trouble. If they lose McDavid, Draisaitl, or Nurse to any significant time or injury, they are in trouble. That's the deal with the Edmonton Oilers. Can they win the cup? Stay tuned to the end of the year because we're only talking playoffs. Okay, so here it is. Coach Ryan D's rankings after logically talking through it. We got the Knights. We got the Oilers as big Stanley Cup threats over 100 points. The Oilers a little more so because they're picking on bottom teams. We have the Kraken as a playoff threat. Big asterisks, though, because we haven't seen them play. They could absolutely move down and not be as good as we're anticipating. It is very hard to pick the talent of a hockey team with no sample size. The Flames and the Canucks, yeah, they're a threat, but I'm sorry, Flames and Canucks fans. The reason I have you down here is because the wild cards could both easily come from the Central, and I like the Jets, I like the Wild, I like the Blues, and I like the Stars all better than your teams. So I think only 3 teams are coming from the Pacific, but I could absolutely be wrong. Then we go ahead. Lottery is our only chance. It's California down there by themselves, but hey, they had a dominant run for a very long time, and now they're in rebuild mode. Let me know what you think. Let me know what your rankings are down below. Did I get it right? Let me know what you think about our analysts. Drop a like, drop a subscribe. It's been awesome having you here tonight. We'll catch you later on in the week for the other 2 divisions.